cash flow or lack of cash flow is like a heart attack, but profit is like cancer.
It's so morbid.
It's so morbid. You've really got to make sure that you're bringing in cash, otherwise the business will end. Doesn't matter how everything else is going. If there's no cash, you're dead.
Ultimately, if someone could just invent a June Christmas, that would be great.
Yeah, and unfortunately, they're not going to be able to yet. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Candid Founders, where we give you a candid view of a growing business. It's summer, and
woo!
Yeah, for Bearkind, that's normally not a good thing because actually we're worried about the business dying.
Yes, 60% of our revenue comes in November and December. So when you hear us talking about wartime and peacetime CEOs, at the moment we're at war.
Yeah, so join us today to discuss a few strategies that we're trying to work out. We're really trying to understand, how to know if we're in a problem period, what are we going to do about that problem period, how are we going to generate more sales, and what are we going to do in terms of diversifying income.
Yeah, nice. So where should we start?
I think the best part is like how to know if you're in a problem period.
Or if you've got one coming up.
That's a really good shout. So for us as a business, our main real cost outside of the core period is our salaries for our team and ourselves. And so there's this great metric, and actually as a finance person, I hadn't heard about it before. And it's basically called selling cost, which is your salaries divided by your revenue. And so for us during our core periods of, October, November, December, our salaries are pretty much like 3% of sales, which is massive. But then during the rest of the year, it's closer to 40%, 30%.
Big difference.
Massive difference. And so all of your kind of costs are already going on a revenue line straight to salary. So you got to really start to think, okay, I'm not generating enough revenue off the salaries that I've got currently with the products I've got currently. So what am I going to do about it? And that's really how you know.
Okay, cool.
And yeah, exactly. Cash is rightly the lifeblood of the business. There's a really good saying that, cash flow is, or lack of cash flow is like a heart attack, but profit is like cancer.
It's so morbid.
It's so morbid. I don't love it, but you've really got to make sure that you're bringing in cash. Otherwise the business will end. Doesn't matter how everything else is going. If there's no cash, you're dead. So the main things that we're kind of thinking about really is how do we keep our costs as low as possible? What are we doing around our kind of like gross margins, net margins, and all of the costs in between that? What are we doing with our marketing spend? And then how are we thinking about ordering stock for our Christmas order, which is typically a big cash crunch period for us? How have you been thinking about cost cutting?
Because this is the thing for me, that you kind of get scared. So you want to go like, oh shit, we're going into a slow sales period. Reduce cost. Where can we cut costs? Like reduce marketing spend. Like why are we giving money to Facebook? But you actually have to keep spending money. Otherwise you will, in the future, and this is why you have to do these kind of cash flow forecasting, you will kill business off in the future. So you have to get this real good balance of spending money where you need to spend money.
Yeah.
And that's why this analysis is so important, because you have to understand you're getting return on investment, from those investments.
Yeah.
So you still have to spend the money, but it also feels a bit scary because you're going into a potentially slow sales period. We're going to talk about how we're preparing for it and hopefully swerving it, but it still will be quiet compared to Christmas. So there is some cost cutting involved, but not in the key areas.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really good shout. I was kind of going to go just straight to like, let's just cut as much as we can in terms of like those costs that aren't valuable. But that then kind of also changes and maybe taints the business, which is kind of, I think, how you're saying it, of like, we have to make sure we're spending monies in the right way. And I think that's been the best part of the cash flow forecast. So I'm doing a monthly cash flow forecast at the moment, where I'll take down what we had, at the end of the month, across all of our cash balances and our short-term liabilities. I'll look at what we're paying in terms of our short-term payables, in terms of like stock purchases, VAT, this type of thing. And we've got a really good handle of, maybe plus or minus £1,000 or £2 where our cash position is going to be at the end of the next month. And we've done that for then the next 12. So we understand, okay, exactly what can we afford to purchase and not purchase from a cash flow perspective, not just a profit perspective.
And can I ask, because I would have really struggled to do this by myself if I didn't have you in the business. This is not my background, it's not my strength, but do you think I could have done it? Like, what would you, if I had to do it by myself, what would you say I focus on?
I think if I was, working with you from and without full time, I'd be saying this is something you absolutely need to get expert advice on.
Oh, so outsource it?
I think so. I think there's just too much work to kind of like understand it very well all the time and be on top of it. So it's actually probably something I'd say it's probably worth you spending a couple £100 to get a cash flow forecast done by an accountant, have monthly bookkeeping, and be totally on top of it. And that's where I think some businesses really fail, because they don't have someone being like, hold on, this is really bad.
Yeah, and don't forget, this happened to us last year. No, I feel like we fell behind on the accounts just because the system. We had some errors in our accounting, and it just wasn't up to date until this year. We've had like a load of issues that we've now fixed, but that killed us a little bit last year on profit. So it is really important to invest in it, because otherwise you just lose more money down the line.
And I think one of the things I really love about it is looking at the business dispassionately. So we obviously love the business. We're passionate about where it's going. Every day we kind of sit in front of the metrics and we think this business is going in the right direction. We're getting more impressions. Customers are coming to us. They're staying with us. And we're looking at these numbers internally thinking, oh, everything's going in the right direction. And then you've kind of got, like, maybe superfluous metrics as well, like how many followers do you have, what subscribers look like, how many emails are we, kind of getting, but nothing matters compared to revenue. And so cold, hard cash is what matters.
Yeah.
We want to make donations. We can, try as much as we can for that. But if we don't have the cash to pay it, we're in a problem. So being really tight on this is crucial. And yeah, you're right. We had to spend a lot of time getting our books into the right position last year, which we, I think we're pretty much have that behind us now. But before then, we made some grave errors that I'm kind of looking at on a monthly cash flow perspective, where in non-core periods, we were spending thousands of pounds on advertising that just wasn't profitable. And we have kind of taken a different step on our marketing spend and said, okay, actually, we're going to spend roughly £2,000 a month outside of core period, just to kind of have something always on, being in front of customers, making sure that we're not going to disappear, that our audiences are right in the right position. And that seems to be the right amount of spend. We're kind of doing a 70% awareness, 30% conversion type of split, but we're spending most of it on Facebook conversion campaigns. And we're just trying out different ad creative. We're getting new ad creative in and popular. We've now got an ad which I think will do just as well as our orangutan ad, which is kind of at a couple hundred likes. So got great social proof, and so you can't turn off the business entirely. During that period. You have to be running a little bit.
Yeah, especially on marketing, because otherwise you lose all that kind of social proof and everything that's going on. And then so you can't just switch on ads in the core period and expect it to work. You kind of have to be feeding it with information through the year. Well, that's what I've heard from people.
Yeah, and I think it's like overly done probably by like agencies.
Yeah,
so
they're like, you must keep spending.
You must keep spending, which is classic. But I do think there's an element of success there. Like, we are getting in front of new customers. There are people who are seeing our brand. We do. I mean, the other day you had someone come up to you and be like, "Oh my God, are you Lucy Jeffrey?"
Oh, that was no. Well, I didn't say my name, but I was in John Lewis, and this woman came up to me, customer. She didn't work there. She was like, "Excuse me, are you the lady who does the animal socks?" And I was like, "Yes."
What?
She was like, "I just wanted to come say hi," and then ran off. And I was like, "What just happened?"
Yeah, I mean, so maybe a vanity metric, but amazing, just to kind of be like, wow, that's, it's good to see that the marketing is working. And then the other big part that we mentioned for us as a seasonal business is ordering stock at the right times and making sure we've got that kind of consistent flow. So I did a piece of analysis to basically work out what are our cost of goods sold. And at the moment we're selling about 3,000 socks a month, which for us is kind of on minimums of 500 socks per size. So we could kind of really be ordering kind of 500 adult socks, 1,000 adult socks in 3 different designs. So that's something we're going to look at. And then come Christmas, that balloons to 40,000 per month. So we just goes mental. So making sure we've got enough stock in for that, but not overstocking outside of that period, and making sure that we're not holding too much.
So stock we have to keep spending money on, and well, actually we're quite overstocked at the moment, so we've got a lot of stock in. Marketing we have to keep spending money on, and obviously salaries as well. And that's another thing, it's not just money you need to think about in this slow sales period, it's actually our time. So us two running the business, the 2 ladies that we've got full-time in the team, it's their time is super valuable to us, so we need to understand what they're working on and making sure it's kind of a priority area and it's actually generating sales. And props to them, because I feel like we pivot them all the time. They're working on key areas most of the time. So we've got someone on emails, and we've got someone on charity and photography and things like that. but we will kind of constantly go back to them and be like, how are we going to make more sales? What are we going? What's the next opportunity? What channels are we going after? And this is the nature of working in a small business like this, because we're kind of scrabbling around all the time looking for sales. So it's not for everyone, but it is quite exciting as well. And it's cool. It's a very diverse kind of way of working.
Yeah, and that mentality is so crucial to get right, and making sure that we're preparing for it with the team and approaching it with the team in the right way is absolutely crucial. And I think one of the things that's also been helping us with this view of like, is the business alive or is it dead, is discussing with the board, how is the business doing?
Yeah.
And so really good push. I think, I was relatively on top of the numbers, but since we're now having these monthly conversations where I've got, multiple people I deeply respect kind of pushing me to be like, is this numbers where you want them? What are you doing with them? How are you going to develop them and expand them out? So that kind of like, I guess, helps you prepare for a slow sales period, because you, again, look at it dispassionately.
Yeah, it does. It gives you that challenge. I also think it's a positive thing, because they'll turn around, and I specifically remember one of them being like, oh, year on year, this is really good. Year on year, you've grown and you've spent less on marketing. And we were just there like, I thought we were just focusing on the negative narrative, because we're like getting ready for like wartime, as I said before, and forgetting that actually we know we're sitting on a great thing here. We've got a profitable business and a great product, and we just need to kind of hold on. And there's a few things that we'll discuss later in the podcast that we're doing to try and diversify, but at this point it's diversifying and then getting ready for Christmas, and just really making the most of that core sales period.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the right jumping off point. Let's talk about how we're going to generate more sales.
Yeah, which is the key thing here is make more money. So yes, there are things that we can do during this slow sales period, things that we're preparing. I think ultimately if someone could just invent a June Christmas, that would be great.
Yeah, and unfortunately they're not going to be able to yet. They did that in China with kind of Singles Day and that type of stuff, but I've not yet seen that, unfortunately, in the UK. But there's two main feathers to our bow. We've got our business to business, and we've got our business to consumer business. So looking at those separately, on wholesale or the B2B side, we're doing a lot of work on reordering, and then on our direct to consumer or B2C business, we're working on our marketing spend, how we're generating kind of more sales, and then what are the other opportunities that we've got available.
Yeah, absolutely. So I can cover off the B2B stuff, because I'm looking at our current wholesale customer base, because we've got a really nice base of customers. A small pot of them are like really loyal, high spending customers, which is great to see. And then we've got a fairly big pot, as you do, of customers that have only ever ordered once from us. And then we've got like a medium-sized pot of customers who they've ordered a fair amount of socks, like enough that you think, okay, they're invested in this, because they've ordered it maybe 2 or 3 times, up to £1,000 spend total, but maybe they've disengaged in the last 6 months. So I've got some that haven't ordered since maybe Christmas. And I'm starting to look at them. I was actually doing it today. I was kind of going through my spreadsheet and working out what is the approach here, because you want to target them in slightly different ways. So our very, very loyal customers, we have a very close relationship with them. Some I even see in person or it's a phone call. And then others, I feel like maybe I've dropped the ball a bit and I haven't had super great contact with them. I think it's a case of I haven't been organized enough in the sales approach. So I think that a system needs to be put in place here. So I'm looking at doing some analysis at the moment and just working out, okay, when do I want to contact these people? What do I want to say to them? Sometimes it's literally just as simple as checking in. So I might see someone that orders quite a lot and then they haven't this year. So I've just sent them an email to check in and ask them, is there anything we can do to support them? Others, I might wait. I've realized we've got quite a few people that ordered maybe 3 or 4 months ago. I'm not going to check in with them until we've got our restock in. So we've got a big restock coming. It feels like we've got quite a few key pieces out of stock at the moment. So there's, I've done that analysis and realized there's probably not much point going to them being like, hey, okay, you haven't ordered in a while. And they're like, yeah, great. I want this and this. Where is it? I'm like, oh, yes. Well, I don't have it yet. Yeah. So I'm kind of trying to be tactical about it, but I'm learning and growing on that. We'll see what happens. But what I've noticed on wholesale is sometimes all it takes is a little check-in or a little nudge and they'll be like, oh yes, yeah, I was meaning to reorder. Sometimes they'll just ignore my message and reorder. Anyway. And I'm like, fine. Like it just really depends on the person. So that's something I'm doing at the moment and we do see it working. So it's really good for us to get those kind of chunky sales in.
It's really interesting as well because you'd expect that it's in their interest to make another purchase and sell more. if we reach out to them and then they make an order, obviously our socks are selling for them, but yet they don't make the purchase beforehand, which I find really interesting. Like, why is that psychology work? So it just shows that these kind of like sales efforts really work, and you're going to have to make it happen yourself.
Yeah, it's just being a busy business owner, because sometimes it's the
So
same
true,
with me.
so
I'll
true.
have something in the back of my head or an email that I've just kind of left unread, and I'm like, I will get around to it, and then it takes just another nudge for me to be like, yes, sorry, like my to-do list is just growing and growing. So
Yeah,
I think it is partly that as well.
no, that's fair. So that covers us for what we're doing on our B2B side. But going into the direct-to-consumer side of things, we were looking at marketing, we're looking at sales, and we're also looking at, kind of new opportunities. If I start with, what we're thinking about from our sales perspective and doing a summer sales, I think this is actually a bit of a controversial one.
It is, yeah. I've always avoided doing like a big discounted sale. Like, we don't do Black Friday. We're not that kind of brand. Our socks don't go out of date. Like, I don't want to devalue the product. And typically big summer, like up to 70% off flash sales, that's fast fashion. And we just don't want to be that. That's not our values. I don't mind doing a bit of a sale, and we do provide consistent discounts for our customers, but they're kind of set discounts that we have agreed that works for the customer and works for us. So we've never done like a big sale before. And I also don't want to devalue a certain design over another. I'd consider doing it on wholesale. I consider doing, like, if we've got certain products that we're like, okay, that's end of the line and we're moving on to a new product, we need to shift those. Doing a discount on wholesale, because that's business to business, it feels a bit different. But yeah, when we talked about it with our board, they said, you could just test it and see how it goes. A small discount on certain items may be worth a test.
Yeah, and this really kind of I struggle with at the moment, and so I'm looking forward to testing it and seeing how it goes. So that kind of covers us from our sales perspective. Then it's looking at what are we going to do for summer. So we were just doing our kind of mid-summer plan, and then what we're calling our European summer plan. So we're breaking summer up into kind of two separate sections. The first is more focused on Wimbledon, British summer, where you're kind of probably more likely to still be in the country. And then the other half of it, we're thinking from kind of middle of July till kind of end of August, which is more European summer. So typically maybe some people go on holiday, maybe in Europe or in the UK to the beach or something like that. So trying to split it up and think about socks in different ways.
And it's school holidays then. That really is when we have our absolute quietest period. August tends to be the worst one because all the schools have broken up. People are on holiday. Our retailers are on holiday. Things like a lot of things going on. So we do see it being
We're on holiday.
Quiet. We're on holiday in August. Yeah. So it does become difficult, but we're going to try different things. We're always going to try something from a marketing point of view. So this year in particular, we're leaning into the summer thing because bamboo socks are actually great in summer. Like, they're literally built as a sock for summer.
They're sweat wicking.
They're sweat wicking. Cool, they're thermoregulating. So like, they're literally the perfect sock for summer. So yes, everyone's in flip flops and sandals, but if you need to wear socks, everyone's hiking or doing sport, tennis, then these are actually the socks you do want to be wearing. So we're going to try and lean into that more and see how that goes. Yeah,
and I think we really need to reduce down the seasonality of our business. Hopefully that's not by selling less in Christmas. Hopefully it's more by selling more outside of those Christmas periods. And this is what we're hearing from everybody. So we're also starting to look at, different opportunities in terms of channels and charity partnerships. I think probably one of the most interesting ones is a new channel looking at influencers, where influencers will get, rather than kind of linking it out to someone else's website, they'll have their own website, which means that they have total control. They know exactly what their sales comes from. We can work with them because we can provide them our stocks really easily plugged in through Shopify.
Just like a drop shipping model.
Basically, yeah.
So we'd sell them. And it's an American-based platform, the one we're looking at. So we are actually now on the hunt for an American warehouse again. I started this at the start of the year. We thought, yes, this is the year for America. And then, as everything, we pivoted away from it just because we weren't sure what we were doing from a cost point of view. Yeah. Now looking at it again, because we are in the position of we're overstocked. So we've got plenty of stock we can send out there. Yeah. I've been recommended a couple, so I'm going to reach out and then hopefully we can test this user case quite easily. Yeah.
It's quite funny as well because everyone says you've got two problems with stock. You've got either overstocked or understocked.
No, I don't think anyone can get it completely
right. No one
right.
gets it right. And so, I mean, how could you? If you could, you'd be a multi-billionaire.
Which is worse?
Being a multi-billionaire or being...
being understocked or overstocked?
I think if you're understocked, then you've probably done too many like you've got a lot of sales, so you're just sitting there with cash. It doesn't sound like much of an issue.
You are, but I'd also be upset. Like that's for me. I'm more panicked about not having enough stock.
I'd be more upset not being able to pay the bills.
Yeah, but again, then like if you've like sold out of all your stock, you're like, oh, I could have ordered more. So then for me, that's like missed opportunity. Whereas if we're overstocked, yeah, I mean they're both bad, because then you're like, oh, all my money is in stock. But
yeah, what am I doing with this?
Yeah, the panic of having not enough stock.
Yeah, and I was talking to another large brand actually that was going through insolvency, and they were saying that they were just in this death loop where they're spiraling because they've got so much money in stock, which means that they need to do cash generation, which means they need to do sales, which means they're not profitable, which means that they kind of got the worst of both worlds. So we're trying to avoid that. And I guess that's what we're doing with the core business. But you're also looking at another charity partnership.
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually don't know if I can reveal it yet, but I'm looking at a charity partnership with they are a rewilding charity, and so they have some animals in the UK. And I actually don't know how much I can reveal because we haven't signed anything yet. But I'm going to go and visit them and basically go and see their animals, and just kind of discuss with them how we can work together, and hoping to do a specific range of socks based on the animals that they have. So I'm really excited because they literally, and this was their kind of idea as well. They came to me, were like, we'd love to work with you. And then on the call, the lady was kind of saying, why don't you come down and visit us? And yeah, well, you can meet all the animals. And I was like, how is this my job? How is this my job? Yes. So I don't want to be like too keen, but I was literally like, yes, I'll see you tomorrow. So exploring that, because anything like this, any kind of new partnership opens up opportunities that it's difficult to measure, but you never know what might come your way with a partnership like that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's probably covers off what we're doing with the core business now quite well. The next part is really all about diversification and how do we change this business so that we're not in this kind of lull period outside of the core business. So we're looking at kind of really three things. First is geographic expansion, maybe moving into the southern hemisphere where it's colder. People typically buy more socks during that period. The second is products. How do we think about, are we going to sell board shorts, bikinis, belts, who knows, slides, kind of anything else that would go well at this time in kind of a summer period. The third is then customers, going after kind of a new niche, different business types, different people that kind of selling socks throughout the year. And so what we're actually going to do is two things. We're going to go new products and new customers. And so we're actually building out our new Wholesale AutoPilot course, which kind of ticks both boxes.
Yeah, and it's nothing to do with socks, but again, this is just us jumping an opportunity because, as you know, if you're watching this, we've been doing quite a few of these podcasts and videos now. We're trying to grow our YouTube presence. We're just seeing that people are engaging with this content and saying, enjoying it and hopefully learning from it. So we are thinking, okay, I feel like we're onto something here, especially on the wholesale side of things. We have grown from 0 to 700 plus retailers in less than 18 months. And when I say that to people, they're like, what?
What? How did that
that's
happen?
Crazy.
Yeah.
And it's a kind of a mixture of us being really hardworking and kind of really like going into these different niches, but also just jumping on some of the opportunities that have come from various platforms. But there is so much out there to grab. And I'm seeing a lot of other businesses kind of floundering around in wholesale. And I'm sitting here thinking, oh, we've learned a lot and I feel like we're doing a really good job. So we could share this. So enter Wholesale AutoPilot, our brand new course, which you will be able to sign up for below.
And I love the Wholesale AutoPilot as an idea for a few reasons. There are no cost of goods sold. You just have to pay payment processing fees. We have a really unique niche where we're uniquely positioned to talk about this and deliver value for our customers. We're going to deliver a ton of value for them. We speak to so many businesses that need help. And for a small amount of money, we're going to put together a huge course that will really develop their businesses if they follow it.
Yeah, and it is a real big course. We're filming it at the moment, and I don't know how many hours of video it'll end up being. It's quite a few, we're doing quite a few modules. So it's things like lead generation, email marketing, what to say in your emails, when to send them, how to send them, where do you get literally everything. And it's really focused on growing your wholesale business. So I think there's a lot of content out there on what is wholesale and how to get into it. But this is very much focused on, there's a little bit of teaching you on how to get started. But the rest of it is you've already got a product business, let's go. Because that is what happened to us. And I think other people can just follow our blueprint.
Yeah, and I think they're going to do well. So that's really exciting. Check it out, wholesaleautopilot.com. We've got an email, I'm sure when this comes out, but an email capture form. We're trying to go live in the next couple of weeks. We've got a lot of opportunities there. We've got also looking for people to work with on this. So if you see any issues when you sign up or anything that you want to change with the course, please do shout. We will build anything to kind of make sure that this works. So lots of insights in this week's episode, lots of strategies, tips, tricks on how we're doubling down and trying not to die and get into a sustainable sales period. Naturally, if you liked today's episode, please do share, drop us a like. It's how we know that this is working. It's just one click. Have a look at that. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Cheers.